Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Reaching Higher, which is a 6-part video series brought to you by Ulster Bank and the Irish News with me, Lynette. And throughout the series we've heard from a number of pioneering women who have broken the mould in their respective careers and industries. And for our latest episode we're joined by Joanne Wilson, who is Customer Experience Lead for Ulster Bank. She has been with Ulster Bank for 31 years and has taken on no less than 18 different roles within this period of time. She's a passionate people person. Joanne's roles have always centred around managing large groups of people, contributing to their development and delivering for customers. And we'll hear how she stays change ready despite staying in the same organisation for such a long period of time. And we'll also hear about the work she's doing now to help other young women starting out in their own careers. Joanne, you're very welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to start with your life before Ulster Bank. Now, you've been there 31 years, that's an awful long time, but I suppose I'm interested in how you got into the business in the first place. So what was the lead up?
I suppose I'm an Ulster Bank lifer, as we say, so 31 years, and I know I don't look old enough at this stage. I came straight out of school, straight into Ulster Bank. Always wanted to be a nurse or a doctor, didn't follow that route. I came into banking as a bit of a stopgap, and I thought I'll try this for a while, having worked in my own hometown in Tyrone Crystal for about 6 weeks, coming out of a further education college as it was in those days. And here I am 31 years later and 18 jobs under my belt. And
you're now Customer Experience Lead, as I mentioned. So what does that job entail on a day-to-day basis?
Well, basically, I do use the words privileged, Lynette, and blessed to have a role as such as a customer experience lead. So I look after 3 contact centres, one in Edinburgh, one in Greenock in Scotland, and then the one in Belfast here on the Strandmillis Road. And I work with probably 600 people, amazing set of people, and on a daily basis we support customers with their everyday banking needs.
That's a lot of work if you're dealing with those 3 locations. So I can imagine that you have a big daily operation and a body of work to do. You're also managing an awful lot of people. So how many people exactly would you be?
Around 600, but my direct reports, I have 7 direct reports who all do an amazing job, and I couldn't do the job I do without them.
It is a massive responsibility though, you know, because the buck does stop with you, you're the boss. So how do you manage that responsibility day to day?
The one thing I always pride myself on is staying really calm. You may be paddling underneath, but I always, on the exterior, look calm and keep calm for my people. I always have a mantra that unless someone's died, it can't be fixed. So people may come and say, you'll never guess what's happened, big problem. But yet when you unravel it, it's really not a problem. And I think it's removing that fear from people that it's okay to be honest and transparent about what's going on. So I try to be calm. I deal in the moment. I love pace of change. I love, suppose, the fluidity of the contact centre environments. It's fast paced, it's high energy. It's just great, and there's a lot of young kids in there, so it keeps me young.
So you never know what any day is going to present to you, really. You're walking into work and anything can happen.
Absolutely, because it's all in the moment. Obviously in 1 minute you could have maybe, like this morning for example, the websites were having technical difficulties this morning. That of course drives demand into ourselves, so immediately it's all hands on deck. But it's that energy, pace, suppose movement and change that gives me that adrenaline rush.
So ultimately your role is one of leadership, Joanne.
Yes.
And very early on in your career you were identified as a leader. Have you seen yourself as a leader all along? Is that how you started out with that idea of becoming a leader within Ulster Bank?
No, to be perfectly honest with you. Again, I come from very humble beginnings, and there are 2 H's that I always use in my leadership, and one is remaining humble and the other one is I don't do hierarchy. So every person is as valued for someone walks in the door or someone like me that's been there 31 years. So I believe I have a fabulous employer, and I also believe we've had a great partnership between the 2 of us. The employer's given me as Ulster Bank fabulous opportunities, and I've grasped those and ran with them. I've had some great line managers along the way who have spotted an opportunity in me to do something for them, and if you deliver and execute, then you get another opportunity. So it's been that partnership that's really helped.
And what are the key skills of a good leader in your opinion?
I suppose you go back to the honesty, the transparency, the openness, the trust has to be there. You know, I believe trust is a big foundation. If you've got trust, then you can really deal with anything that comes your way. And I just always believe I'm a role model you know, have a bit of crack and a bit of fun and all of that. But I'm a role model and I lead by example, and I represent the brand.
What lessons and skills have you learned along the way that have made you a better leader, Joanne?
I think that working in the contact centre is very unique, and as I say, I've had a lot of different roles, but it's just so unique and different. You're working with kids that come from very tough backgrounds as well, and for me, the biggest thing for me is around humility, and you know, just seeing how hard, it's one of the toughest jobs ever, and I'm very passionate about that, you know, how it is one of the toughest jobs in the bank.
So you are very much aware of where people have come from that morning when they come to work, and you think that's an important thing to understand in order to get the best out of your employees?
Yeah. Like I pride myself on knowing people. Now I won't know everything, but I pride myself on knowing their names and knowing that a member of my team, that I can say hello to them, you know, as I pass them, or I pride myself on that people management, on communication, on being open and transparent.
And how do you manage stress? I imagine, you know, whenever everything is so unpredictable and you don't know when any particular day is going to present to you, there must be an element of stress with that. So you pride yourself in staying calm. You must have to manage that in some way.
I do, and I am a full-time working mum as well, so I've got two boys of 11 and 13, and I try to manage it as best. Obviously, there's good stress and there's bad stress, and I try to really keep it. Things like I do quite a bit of walking when I can, so that. But I think even just things, if there's something that's, don't knee jerk, you know, for something, maybe bad emails come in or a situation's arisen, is taking that time of reflection. Maybe take yourself for a walk around the building at Danesford if that's what it takes. You know, just nearly taking yourself out of the moment. But the important thing for me is being calm there for others.
It's very important advice there, not to knee jerk.
Yeah.
And then what about at the end of the day? Say you've had a particularly stressful day. Do you ever take your work home with you?
I have the luxury, obviously, like a lot of people at the minute, of working from home, but I have chosen to work in the centre for the majority of that time because I believe it brings more out of me. I have chosen at night when the boys are in bed to do a couple of hours because ironically it helps my well-being. So I would say I take it home. But I also love it when the weekend hits and I know that's my time and I can be there in the moment for the boys.
So you're very strict about the weekends. That's your time off then from the week?
I do try to be, and even for holidays now, there's a time I wouldn't have. The phone is off, the iPad's off, and you do need that break. So those are the things that I would say have really helped me to try and switch off. Because I do run a 24/7 operation, it's like that always on mentality. So you have to take the time, otherwise you would be always on.
Yeah, and you need to recharge. It's very important.
Yeah.
And who inspires you in a business context? You know, has it been colleagues you've worked with, or do you look outside your organisation to the example of leadership from others?
I tend to, I've had, suppose, a bit of both over the years, you know, but I would take a little bit of snippets from lots of people, lots of line managers I've had over the years, or even colleagues say, I'm a great people observer. I love observing people. I just love watching them, and what I can learn from them then I will take forward. So I think you learn so much from each other as well, and taking those little snippets and then building them into your own sort of leadership tool bag.
There are bound to be stressful situations that you face every day, and it's how you manage it really that results in a good outcome. So what's the key?
I think the key is always looking calm on the exterior. First of all, it's trying to keep it in control. There's obviously good stress and bad stress, so it's keeping it. It may be paddling underneath, but it's keeping it in control, especially for your people, so they can see that you're in control, because that then gives them the confidence. So, you know, things like having a walk, taking yourself out of the situation, just having a bit of reflection, and not knee-jerking to maybe a phone call, an email, or something, because I think those reflection times are the best times to help you deal with the situation differently.
Yeah, and taking that time is very important.
Yeah.
It's good advice. Do you end up taking your work home? Because I imagine in a work day like yours, there aren't enough hours in the day. Yeah. Is it inevitable that at your level, you're going to have to do some work when you go home?
Well, I think, Lynette, in any job now, there's no 9 to 5, and I've never really counted the hours, but I do take my job home, and I've had the luxury, as others have had, to work from home, but I've chosen to work from the centre. I do some work, for example, when the boys are in bed, because that's then my time to get ahead for the next day, but that's something I've chosen, and ironically that helps my well-being, because it gives me on the front foot for the day ahead and helps me plan. So yes, but because I run a 24/7 operation, I have to be quite suppose, focused on my time and quite disciplined. So at the weekends, I would say I always try to switch off phones, switch off iPads, so that you can be with your family then and be there in the moment.
And do you have to be strict about that?
I do. And I've probably only accomplished it in the last couple of years, where because of the role I'm in, where it is 24/7, you're always on. Previously, I would have had a full break at the weekend, but in this, you have to do it. So I haven't been as disciplined before, but I am now, because I want to be there for my family at the weekend and be there for them instead of, Mum, you're not listening, or whatever.
Yeah, and being distant from them,
Yeah.
even though you're present physically. I'm interested, Joanne, in, we're talking to women in this series about reaching higher, and you have reached higher within your organisation, within Ulster Bank, but yet banking still remains male dominated, if you like. From the outside in, looking at it, it looks like a male dominated environment and business. A lot done, a lot yet to do, but what has your experience been?
I suppose in all the jobs I have, over the 18 jobs I've had, I always felt when I applied for roles, I was the best. It was the best person for the job got the role. And I haven't felt that I got that because I was a female, or I didn't get it because I was a female. I genuinely feel the best person got the job on the majority of those occasions. And I think when I look at the structure in our organisation, our chief executive of NatWest Group is a female. If we look at the Ulster Bank Ireland, if we look at the group chief executive's a female. And that to me is a really different place and real work in progress, from where we've been. But I've always felt I've got the job because I was the best person for it, not because I'm a female.
Why did you choose to stay in Ulster Bank? You said you're an Ulster Bank lifer. You've worked within the bank for 31 years, which is an awful long time, but you've done different roles during those 31 years. But talk to me about that, about moving around and I suppose building your career within an organisation and making that decision to do so.
I suppose because again, it's a change, it's the variety, and I get quite stale if I do something for quite long, so I like a challenge, a new exciting opportunity. So I'm always looking for the next step, what that's going to be, not necessarily upways, but maybe potentially sideways, to give me that breadth, throughout my career. So I've always been looking from that piece of it. Also because we have a great partnership, I have a great employer, and I believe they've got a good partnership with me. So I've been loyal to them for the 31 years, and they've also given me massive opportunities in that time. So the fact I was constantly challenged during that time, made me really loyal and dedicated and wanted to stay.
And what has your attitude been to upskilling? Because we deal with new technology, new ways of working day and daily, things never ever stay the same. So how do you keep yourself fresh and relevant in your job?
Probably up until about 6 or 7 years ago, I only ever applied for roles where I had knowledge of. But within the last, I did do like a talent programme about 6 years ago, and that was a turning point for me to go into something you know nothing about. And from that time, I'd taken on a risk role. And for people who wouldn't know me, will know that there's not a risk strength in my body. So it was very much a very new and different world for me. Felt I was sitting, with people who spoke a different language. So from that turning point, every role since that, even working in the contact centre industry, whilst I'd been in operations, I've never worked in the industry before. So that was a turning point, is try something new all the time. Try something new and different, and just don't stay inside your comfort zone.
And would you give that advice to anyone who wants to progress in a career? Is that the way forward?
Absolutely, and I just wish I did it earlier, because it did take me probably 20 years to say I'll just keep going for the jobs that I know I can really do. And I think we sometimes get tied up in knowledge is power, but I believe when you're fresh and you coming into a role, you can ask lots of great questions.
Is that a female thing? Is that something that women do, that they only go for the jobs they really know they stand a really good chance of getting, that they don't take a risk?
I would say yes, Lynette. I think that's definitely something potentially. I also think women, it's certainly with me in the past as well, it's been confidence, and just having that real confidence and self-belief that you can do it. I think I would have often thought about what I can't do, as opposed to what I can. And even looking at some of those job applications in the past, I would have I don't have that, instead of I've got that. So it's nearly like turning it on its head to say, think about what you have, not about what you haven't. And if you don't have the knowledge, you can be taught. It's all that, suppose, skill versus will. I had the will, but maybe not the skill.
And you can always acquire the skill.
Yes, and then you build a great team around you who teach you every day.
Absolutely. And but talk about building that team around you. Joanne, you are very much investing in women coming up through the ranks as well. You're very much the woman who leaves the ladder down behind her and invites everyone else to come up and join you. Why is it important to you to do that?
I just think as well, so many people invested in me. And I was once in their shoes, all those number 30 odd years ago, and they're just massive opportunities ahead, and I want to be able to share and mentor some of those people, you know, on some of the experiences I've had. I am a very open-minded, you know, I'm young at heart, and I know I could bring a lot to a partnership, someone who's relatively young like that.
So you're giving back?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the Young Women's Network is a great example that we partner, you know, there for 18 to 25-year-olds, whether you're coming out of school, whether you're starting off in your first job, whether you're getting into the entrepreneurial line, any of those is just amazing opportunities. And having been at one of the events recently, it's such a great network as well, where, you know, your question is someone else's question. And it's so brilliant to be part of that.
Yeah, and that instills confidence then as well when you're in the context of other people experiencing the same thing as you. So looking back, 31 years, an esteemed career, Joanne, very, very driven, learned a lot along the way. If you were advising Joanne, who was starting off in the Ulster Bank, what advice would you give yourself when you were starting off in your career?
I'm not sure there's too much I would change, to be perfectly honest. At this stage, I probably would have grasped opportunities earlier, and I would have definitely gone for jobs I didn't know anything about. So I would have probably moved out of my comfort zone a lot earlier than I did. But I wouldn't really change any of it. I've made some amazing friends over the years. I've worked with some amazing people. I'm a better person because of it as well. And it's, you know, it's been a great partnership. And I can't believe 31 years later that here I am. It's just been like a flash. But I've had so many happy memories.
And just finally, Joanne, what about confidence? How do you instill confidence into young women?
It's just, suppose, role model, you know, being that role model, believing in yourself, and just keep telling yourself how good you are. You know, I know that I've worked hard on my confidence over the years, but it's probably only now, the last few years, that I've really got it to where it needs to be. And that's, but when you deliver, when you execute, you know, deliverable projects, when you see the results, all those things give you confidence, you know, in yourself.
Joanne Wilson from Ulster Bank, thanks very much for talking to me today.
Thank you very much,
you.
Lynette.